This is GAA in season, phase 1, day 1. So this day is a full body day. This is the front foot elevated split squat. So you can grab the weight there, Jack, and you can start. There's a few really important coaching points with this exercise. This is my favorite exercise for teaching you how to squat lower with a barbell squat. So there's a lot of exercises you can do to help your barbell squats. This is the best for increasing range of motion or getting you to squat deeper. So the first tip with a front foot elevated split squat is you want tracks, not tightrope. So tracks is like this, and tightrope is one leg in front of the other. So the big problem a lot of people have when they're starting this exercise, they're wobbling all over the place. You can see with Jack there, he's very stable. I can even push him a little bit, and he's at no risk of falling over. But there are a lot of people when they start this exercise, the smallest bit of wind and they just completely fall over and they'd end the set. So chest up, shoulder blades back. The second tip with this is escalator, not elevator. So escalator, forward and down and back and up. Forward and down and back and up. And not elevator, which is up, down, like a lot of the other types of split squats. Chest up, shoulders back. So lastly, you want to make sure you keep your heel up off the ground for all of the reps. Push the knee forward as far as you can and keep the back leg as straight as possible. And that's where you're going to get the biggest stretch on the hip flexor, and that front leg, you're going to be working your quad far harder. So push the knee forward and all the way back up. Let's go for one more rep. Push the knee forward as far as you can and all the way back up. Excellent, well done. Nordic falls. So I absolutely love this exercise, and the only problem with the Nordic falls is that it's sometimes difficult to set it up. If you haven't got one of these machines, it can be a bit of a pain asking someone to hold your ankles or trying to fix them under some sort of heavy machine or the end of a squat rack. But if you can do it, I really recommend spending some time getting very good at this exercise, especially if you play sports. So very simple exercise. It's like a body weight hamstring curl. Keep a straight line from your knee to your shoulder and fall forward as slowly as possible. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. And use your hands to push yourself back up. Exactly. So that's a big mistake a lot of people make. Go again, second rep straight away. So a big mistake a lot of people make is that when you get on the way back up, they kind of walk back up and don't use their hamstrings at all. So you want to use your hands like a press up and pull with your hamstrings at the same time. And that way you're going to work your hamstrings far more than if you just fall and kind of walk back up and fall and walk back up, which is what most people do. So to be able to pull yourself back up without your hands is very, very unrealistic. For a set of 8, you might be able to do it for 1 or 2 reps if you're very strong on the hamstrings, but generally you're going to do what Jack is doing there, which is push back up and pull with your hamstrings to the top. All the way down, squeeze, 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 and pull back up. Go for 2 more reps. Usually I would do these for sets of 6 to 8 or 8 to 10. And really it's up to you how hard you work. So you're not going to be working very, very hard on these at all if you decide to be lazy. It's not like you have a heavy weight in your hands or on your back. So it's completely up to yourself how hard your hamstrings work. One more. So. In this position, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. That's where it's up to you how hard you're going to work and how effective the exercise is going to be for you. This is weighted tricep dips. So this exercise I absolutely love for all athletes of all kinds, and it's a brilliant builder for the upper body that's not bench pressing or dumbbell bench pressing. A lot easier on the joints because the neutral grip mainly. So hop in there, Jack. So lift your legs up at the back, and you want to make sure for your grip that it's just outside shoulder width, so you can start your set there. So range of motion here is crucial, and you can train this exercise to failure far more safely than a barbell bench press. So barbell bench press causes a lot of problems with the shoulders for a lot of people, not for everyone, but for a lot of people. But you won't generally have the same trouble with dips if you're trying to get 10 body weight reps and then start adding weight after that. So really big range of motion where the shoulder goes lower than the elbow and lock out hard at the top. Let's go 3 more reps. Let's go real tough set, squeeze, 3, and all the way down, big stretch, drive up, 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 finish it, good job. Well done. So you can train this exercise to complete failure very, very safely. And I do this exercise at least once a week, no matter what stage of the season I was at. This is the chin up on rings. So you'll see that these handles, they're not gymnastic rings, but they act exactly the same. So you can start your set there, Jack. So we'll go for 10 reps. So this is my favorite exercise for the upper body. If I could only pick one exercise for the upper body, this would be it. The chin up on rings, or if you have these handles, you can attach them to any bar anywhere. You can get the same effect as chin up on rings. So full range of motion, big stretch at the bottom. And you can see at the top, because these handles rotate around your anatomy, the range of motion is far bigger. So Charles Poliquin used to always say his favorite exercise for the upper body was chin ups on rings. And after all my years, 12 years as a personal trainer, as a strength and conditioning coach for GAA players, and through my own training myself, I found that to be so true. The best exercise for building muscle, the quickest for building strength, the quickest, and for that strength to transfer into everyday life in your sport is definitely the chin up, full range of motion. So the big advantage using these handles, go and do another couple of reps, is when you get to the top of the movement, they rotate so that you're getting another few inches of range of motion. So that's going to make the exercise far harder. So while you can do the exercise effectively on a bar, or you can do pull-ups, and they're both great exercises, I really prefer the rings because it's far easier on the shoulder joint, and again, it rotates around your anatomy instead of your own anatomy rotating around the bar. This is the goblet squat. So, all right, Jack, you can start there. So I love this exercise for teaching your full range of motion, but it's brilliant for in-season with GAA players because you can work the legs really hard without loading the spine. And the recovery from a goblet squat session where you're training the goblet squat to failure isn't going to be nearly as long as recovery from a heavy barbell squat session. It's not going to tax your nervous system as much. So what we're focusing on here is making sure we hold the kettlebell up good and high, and that in itself is going to be a tough exercise for the core and even your upper body and your arms. And then making sure that we get all the way down to the bottom. So to make sure the goblet squat, to make sure the exercise is as effective as possible, you want to be using full range of motion. That's why we elevate the heels. So even if you have good ankle flexibility, your hip flexors aren't tight, like Jack's flexibility is already very good, we're still going to elevate the heels to get an extra bit of range of motion. So to make exercises harder during the season without adding heavier weight, we just increase the range of motion. It really is that simple. So we increase the range of motion, the muscles have to work far harder, and you get to have those really tough sessions in season that don't have the recovery time of a heavy barbell session. Chest up, go 2 more reps. Toes pointing out, chest up, and that nice Olympic style squat. Good. Well, this is the single leg hip thrust. So this is an exercise I've only learnt about relatively recently in the last 3 years from Flexible. So I was doing a program for flexibility and structural balance, and I came across this one from another coach and I absolutely loved it straight away. We've been putting it on a lot of clients' programs since. So you can start there, Jack. So a subtle difference on the way he taught it, which is the way I've been using it with clients as well, is you hug your knee. So by bringing your knee to your chest and hugging it as tight as possible, it makes a huge difference to how hard you can contract the glute on the opposite leg. So what we're trying to do here is make sure that at the top, the heel to the knee is straight, and it's not too far forward or too far backwards. And then we're also making sure that at the top we're getting as high as possible so that the glute fully contracts. If you don't get to the top of this movement and you just do the bottom half or the lower half of the range of motion, then what's going to happen is you're only going to work the glute about half as much as you should. So all of the work is done at the top half of the range of motion. Hug the knee tight to the chest. Make sure your heel stays on the ground. So him even lifting off his toes there a little bit is perfect. And make sure drive up really hard, squeeze the glute at the top. One of the reasons I love this exercise is it's very, very hard to find an isolation glute exercise that works one leg at a time. So you can do single leg RDL, but I'm not a big fan of that exercise. So this, you can work the glute really, really hard on one side, then really, really hard on the other side. So while you're doing heavier squats, heavier deadlifts and things like that, they always work the two glutes at once. So if you have an imbalance, they're not really going to correct it. Whether this exercise is excellent for fixing imbalances. So in the season or at the start of your off season, it's the perfect exercise for structural balance in the hips and making sure both glutes are equally as strong. This is the face pull. So a big favorite here at the gym. I use it all the time. I use it on so many programs, and because it's so good for shoulder health. All right, Jack, you can start there. So you want to grab the rope as tight as you can. So put one foot in front of the other, split stance, a bit more. Yeah, and you want to pull back hard and keep it up good and high there. He's doing it perfectly because he's externally rotating. So external rotation means that position at the end of the movement. And you'll find that that position is quite rare in the gym. People don't do it that often. And it's really, really healthy for the shoulder, especially if you're doing a lot of heavy pressing or bench pressing. And it's the exact opposite position to the position you'd be in when you're sitting at a desk or when you're on your phone too much, which is a common problem for so many of us at this day and age. So you want to do 3 to 4 sets of this for 15 to 20 reps at least once or twice a week. And I've been doing that for as long as I'm in the gym. I've never had any injuries. So I put it down to exercises like this, external rotation exercises for the shoulders, full range of motion exercises for the hip flexors, and it's actually not that difficult to stay injury free in the gym. So squeeze back, let's go 5 more. So externally rotate hard. You won't need much weight. Or pull. And again, your shoulders will feel far healthier doing any type of bench pressing, and it'll really improve your posture. You'll be able to stand a lot straighter. This is the tricep extension. So Jack, you can start there. So the step in real close to the cable machine is the way I like them done. And the main focus, if you want to contract your triceps as hard as possible, to pull the rope apart at the bottom. So squeeze the rope tight as you can. What you're trying to do is flex your tricep as hard as you can with the weight. So pull the rope wide at the bottom and chest up. So remember the top half of this movement, and remember it's an isolation exercise for the triceps, so the range of motion isn't that big. The top half of the movement doesn't really do anything for the exercise. So up here, so a lot of people make the mistake of they're only coming down 3/4 the way, and they're not doing the most important part of the exercise, which is where your tricep is fully contracted. So what you want to make sure you do is flex as hard as you can at the bottom and fully straighten the arms so the tricep is fully contracted. Again, this is another exercise you can train to failure very, very safely. So you want to make sure that after your first set, sets 2, 3, you're pushing it very, very hard. And you can do drop sets on this as well to get as much blood as possible into the muscle. This is the incline bicep curl. So let's go. So I love this exercise for athletes or for Gaelic footballers because the full stretch at the bottom of the movement. So there's very few exercises where you fully stretch the bicep past the elbow joint and the shoulder joint. So a lot of exercises, they're all about shortening and contracting the bicep, the standing cable curl, standing easy bar curl. But with this one, you're going to get a full stretch on the bicep across the shoulder and elbow, and that's going to lead to increased flexibility. So the flexibility of the shoulder is crucial for Gaelic football, as if your shoulders get very, very stiff, and then you go into a lot of tough tackling, the chances of you dislocating your shoulder is going to be higher. And shoulder dislocations is a very, very common injury in Gaelic football. So real low, big stretch at the bottom. Make sure you fully straighten your arm all the way back, and make sure that your arm stays back and doesn't come forward, the elbow doesn't come forward. If the elbow comes forward, you're getting rid of the whole point of being on an incline bench. So what you want to make sure is that your elbow stays good and far back, and you have a full stretch at the bottom, all the way back. and last rep, so up to the top, down halfway and hold there, hold. And an isometric contraction on this exercise is perfect. So you want to hold for a bit longer than that usually, and hold down at the bottom in full stretch position. So what I'd like on the last set of the exercise is to hold an isometric contraction for maybe 10-15 seconds about halfway down, and then finish in full stretch. And that's where you'll really feel the stretch across the shoulder and the elbow, and hold that stretch position for 10-20 seconds on the last set of this exercise.